Alright, so for the next few videos, pretty much this is going to be a series of videos inspired by a video I watched of Black Nerd Comedy, where he talked about the whole J.J. Abrams directing Star Wars thing. And he left off with this question of, if you could pick any director to direct a movie based off of a favorite franchise, what would it be? And rather than do a video comment, this is not really a video response to it, but this video was inspired by that question. So for the next few videos, because they're probably going to be in segments, because this is going to probably be a long-ass video that I'm going to have to cut up because of the YouTube strike that I can't do a whole video. Well, anyway, let's not rant about that. Anywho, pretty much the next few videos are going to be broken up. The first few you're more than likely going to see are me talking about directors I would pick for movies based off of some of my favorite cartoons. And there were a lot I could have picked from, but I chose these few. And then the next few you're going to see are mine from anime. So be prepared for that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So let's get started, as you can see right here, with Samurai Jack. My pick for director for a Samurai Jack movie, whether it be animated or live action, I would be okay if it was live action if it was directed by this guy, Bryan Singer. Now, we all know Bryan Singer, known from the first, the 2 X-Men movies, and soon to be Days of Futures Past. Now, why would I pick Bryan Singer as a director of a Samurai Jack film? I know J.J. Abrams has also, apparently I've heard a few articles that J.J. Abrams wanted to do a Samurai Jack film as well. I don't know. But the reason why I pick Singer, and I would like to see an Abrams take on Samurai Jack, but the reason I pick Singer is because he's really good at doing these huge ensemble casts, as well as these big, these big fantastical stories, obviously with X-Men, and juggling all these characters, as well as telling a very coherent story in like a science fiction look. That's why the first 2 X-Men movies were so successful, is because he managed to handle that superhero aspect as well as the humanizing aspect as well. Among other things, and this is also kind of a gamble as well, because if he can do a good time travel story with Days of Futures Past, then I would be all for him to do this movie. He's also good at directing action sequences, as well as, he's really good, like I said, he's really good at that fantasy stuff, and I'd really like to see him tackle, like, Asian culture. I'd really like to see how he'd handle that. So, definitely Bryan Singer for a Samurai Jack film. And my second pick would be J.J. Abrams. Up next is Invader Zim. And this is a director that has been tossed around. If they ever did an Invader Zim movie, this would be the guy they'd ask to direct it. And that would be Tim Burton. Now, Tim Burton directing Invader Zim sounds like a great combination. And you could either go weird live action, or I'd go with stop motion. I think stop motion would be actually kind of cool to see the stop motion animation go for Invader Zim. I think that'd be kind of interesting. But pretty much Invader Zim has everything a Tim Burton movie needs. So get him on this, get him stop motion. We could have Christopher Lee voice, I don't know exactly who you could get Christopher Lee to voice, but you could have Helena Bonham Carter play Miss Bitters, and you could have Johnny Depp play Professor Membrane. I don't know who you could get for the other ones, although I would suggest the actress who played Hit Girl to play Gaz. That's always been like a fan cast of mine. The chick who played, I can't remember her name, but I think she'd make a great Gaz. Because when I watched her playing Hit Girl, I'm like, she's sarcastic, witty, and kind of kick-ass. She'd make a great Gaz. If they ever did like a live action, or get her to do the voice of that character. Or hell, you can, if you want to do animated, bring back all the original cast. Just having a few extra characters. And among other things, like I said, Tim Burton, this is a Tim Burton film all around, so, and I gotta agree with a lot of people, Invader Zim would probably do well under Tim Burton, as long as he doesn't make it too hilarious, like, too over the top, if you know what I mean. After watching Dark Shadows, I was like, I remember the show being, I never really watched a lot of Dark Shadows, but what I do remember is, it was a lot more darker than this, the hilarity here and there, so, that's just a little bit of it. So, next up is a He-Man film, and who would I get to direct a He-Man film? My director pick would be Alan Taylor. Now, if you don't know who Alan Taylor is, he is going to be directing Thor: The Dark World. He's the director now after Kenneth Branagh left. And he's also director of several Game of Thrones episodes. And mostly a few in Season 1 and a few in Season 2. So, this is how I'd like to have a He-Man film, mostly like a Game of Thrones thing, a like a more in-your-face, I mean not in-your-face, a more mystical aspect of Game of Thrones. I mean, they do have mystical aspects, but on a grander scale. I think it would be really cool to see someone tackle a He-Man film, not the one we saw with oh man, I don't want to remind myself of that He-Man live-action film way back when, but what I'd like to see if they could revamp a He-Man film would be something along the lines of, like I said, Game of Thrones. I'd really like to see them tackle the world of Eternia. I'd really like to see them handle all the different societies, all the different houses, houses, I mean kingdoms, excuse me, and how they could tie in all the mystical aspects with just the the source of all this magic. Where does it come from? And just have these great like a medieval, like a good fantasy film. I'd make it a good fantasy film, a lot better than what we saw of that live action film. So that would be my director cast for a He-Man film, more or less. Up next is Adventure Time. Now, who would I get to direct an Adventure Time film? Obviously, probably I'd like it better to be animated, but if they do live action, it's going to look kind of weird because there's going to be a lot of CGI if it's live action. But if I could pick, and I'm not here to debate live action or animated, I personally would go with animated, but if I could pick a director for that, I would definitely pick Steven Spielberg. Why would I pick Spielberg? Spielberg is really good at doing fantasy films as well as kids movies. I mean, obviously E.T., and he's also a very diverse actor, and these are very diverse characters. You have dark elements in Adventure Time, but they don't really stress on it. I'd really like to see him handle the fantastical elements of it. I'd really like to see what he comes up with for this kind of universe. And if it was live action, there'd be a ton of CGI, I'm just saying. But on the other hand, you have Spielberg, who is really good at doing Academy Award-winning films, as well as, he's good at, dealing with other, like, kids' movies as well. I mean, we've seen his list of films. He's very diverse. And again, this is a far-fetched one, but I couldn't really think of anyone else to do an Adventure Time film that could handle all these characters as well as bring them out, if you know what I mean. So, again, very long. That's a long shot. This is probably the longest shot I have out of all of them. But Steven Spielberg for Adventure Time. I'm pretty sure you guys could probably think of something a lot better than that. But anywho, let's move on to the next one.